Hi guys, welcome back. Or if you haven't been here before, hello. My name is Kayla Jade. I post weekly blogs just of either my different lifestyle or just of things that I do in the DMV area. So if you're interested or you want to see more, please like of 8 things I wish I knew before starting locks, um, and kind of my lock journey. So, starting off with number one is find a loctician or a lock friend. At the time when I started my locks, I had my friend Jazz, and she was just like she was kind of my lock guru. She started my locks for me, and then she kind of like told me a lot of what I needed to do, and then the rest of my locks was very DIY, like very do it yourself. But about at the 6 month mark, because I'm 2 years locked now, but at the 6 month mark, I was getting concerned with my locks, and me and Jazz had she had moved away. We had both moved to separate places, so I didn't have anyone. So I ended up having to find a loctician just to make sure, just for her to like check the status of my locks, and for her to look at them and be like, okay, this is what you should do. This is what you should add to it. This is what you like need to start doing. So even if you are like doing it by yourself, having a friend or like a friend of a friend that is a lock guru and someone that like you kind of admire, or even finding someone on YouTube. So for me, it was like West Indie Ray was kind of the person I would always turn to. I loved her locks and I loved the way that they looked, and her and a couple other people. Um, and those were like the people that I would look to whenever, especially like that first year mark is when you're gonna like make a lot of the mistakes you might make, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I fix this? So yeah, right off the top, number one, find a lock friend, find a lock girly, even if it's a YouTuber or an influencer, um, or a friend or a friend of a friend, like find a person. Okay, and then jumping into number two, I did not listen to this, which I deeply regret. And everyone said it. And I just like I did not listen. Don't over retwist. For your first like 12 months, only retwist once a month. I know like for me, I loved the retwist look because I hated my hair being frizzy. I was like, I'm not enjoying this. This is not fun. But like if you over retwist your locks at the beginning stage, you're looking at breakage later down the road. It won't start then, but when your locks, because within the first year, your locks will bud, and so they'll grow twice in size. But if you're over twisting them, you'll like a year from now you'll be able to spot the spot that you over twisted on your locks, because you're just not giving them the opportunity to grow, and you're kind of thinning them and causing that breakage. So limit yourself as much as it sucks, or you feel like it sucks, or you're like, oh my god, this is so frizzy. I feel however, like find a hat, find some scarves, and like that's how you're just gonna rock for like the next couple months until you start getting a little bit more comfortable with however they're looking. Because if you over retwist, you're gonna regret it in the end. Um, so yeah, number two, don't over retwist. So number three for me, is brush your locks, but only do this when your locks mature. So I started brushing my locks at the 14th month. That's when I started brushing them. And my locks just like loved getting its hair brushed. I dye my hair very often. I don't dye my hair that often. I dye my hair like every 3 months. And I can once I start brushing it, that's really when the hair follicles like they'll just start growing. When you do brush your locks, be soft with them, be gentle, brush them in sections, top to bottom, be very gentle. I always do this after my oral routine, so I'll never brush my hair dry. I always brush them wet. Um, but brushing your locks can just it smooths them out and gives them kind of that good look. But don't do them until your locks are fully mature. If your locks are still in that budding phase and they're still kind of looking like the twist or the coils and they're not quite there, don't brush them yet. Wait till they're matured. So number three, brush your locks. The number four for me is your moisture routine. So you have to find a moisture routine that works for you and your locks. So for me, it's I go water, cream, then oil. So I'll spray water. I use a 360 spray. Spray some water on my locks, and then I'll use multi cultural multicultural curls. That's a cream based uh, like solution I'll use, and then I'll use oil. And then my type of oil that I love is avocado, grape, and argan. My hair hates coconut oil. This might not work for you. This might you might want something else. Like my mom, she's locked, and she strictly uses water and oil. That is it. She will not touch any type of gels. She will not touch any type of cream based products because her hair just collects like everything. It collects dirt around her and it collects product around her and it builds up so quickly. So you have to do what works for you. And so even a product that I used to use when I was just like a natural hair, I just had like my natural fro out. Um, I would use I would use Mix Girls, and my hair loved it when it was just like out and just loose. But the second I got locks, I don't know why. I think it was like the buildup over time. It would start to smell on my locks, so I had to switch to multicultural curls, and that kind of like my locks love those because it smells really good and it lasts for a while, and it just makes my hair kind of soft but still pretty, and that's what works for me. So you have to find a moisture treatment and don't be afraid to kind of adjust and move. What worked for you at one point may not work for you later. So don't be afraid. Like listen to your locks and don't be afraid to change up your moisture routine based on what you need. Also, another thing is after you moisturize your locks, so after you wet them, do not wrap your hair. Let it air dry because if you do wrap your hair, uh, you're kind of trapping all that moisture, and then that's what creates bacteria, and that's what kind of makes your hair smell after a while. So if you do, if you kind of do the whole, if you kind of do the whole treatment where you spray your hair, do the cream and then the oil, like don't put a scarf on, don't put a bonnet on, like just go run some errands, go do some stuff. Make sure your hair fully air dries, and then wrap it, and then just relax after that. So hair dye. If you are thinking about dyeing your locks, I I dyed my hair prior to getting locks. Um, and then like I just kept dyeing it like as my locks went on. So the only thing I can say about this is that depending on how light you get, you need to up your moisture routine because your hair's gonna dry out. So like my go-to is the Aussie Moisture Curls conditioner. I love that thing. That thing is so good. It's amazing. It does an amazing job. So if you are thinking about dyeing that, I would compound that. I would compound the Aussie conditioner into your wash day routine. It's my favorite thing. I haven't deviated. My hair loves it. It smells delicious. I love anything avocado. Um, so yeah, just incorporate that. So if you are planning on dyeing your locks, at any point, I've heard different locticians say different things. So I'm not going to tell you what to do with your hair. I would 100% though recommend going, like I said in the first topic, in the first point, like finding that loctician or that lock guru, and they can let you know, like, yo, your hair is not in a state to get dyed, or yeah, you're good to go, give you the green light. But I would listen to your body, listen to your hair, and then go from there. Because your body's gonna tell you everything it needs to know. So on that note of kind of like listening to your hair and listening to your body, well, we can move on to our next point, which is be flexible. If you don't take away anything, take away this. Listen to your body and adjust as needed. What worked for you then might not work for you now. So my whole life, I grew up using coconut oil. That was like it was all up and down my house. Nothing but coconut oil. Whenever I turned like 22 for some reason, like coconut oil and my body did not mix. It stunk. As soon as it hit my skin, it was just like the grossest thing in the world. So I had to adjust. I couldn't walk around stinking. Turned out that all of a sudden, for some reason, my body loved shea butter, and like if shea butter hit my skin, it smelled amazing. Or whenever for like avocado oil, it smells amazing. I had to listen to my body and listen to my hair as well because, right, if you put a product on your hair and it stinks, and now you have to wait a month to wash your hair. You get what I mean? So listen to your body. Like listen, it's gonna tell you what it needs to, and you have to be flexible and work with your locks. If your locks are having like a thinning problem, you should probably skip a month of retwist. You probably should retwist. If you're having a bunch of new growth and you have a bunch of matting and you notice a bunch of your locks are marrying, maybe it's time to up your retwist game. You have to listen to your locks and listen to your body. Listen to your locks and then listen to your body and then adjust from there. Next point, do your research. So the way I did my research is that I really like scour the internet for like uh like people's locks. Like I waited till a certain year, right? So when I ended up googling like 2 year lock journey. That was what I kept on looking up. I was like, I want to see people at their 2 year lock mark, because what your locks look like day one is not what they're gonna look like a year after that, and that's not what they're gonna look like a year after that. And I've started noticing like people's locks would mature around like that 2 year mark. So I started looking for influencers when they were at the 2 year mark with their locks. And then I would go like all the way back to the very beginning, and I was like, I wanted to know what your locks look like then. Like, how many locks did you start with, and how did you get to the point where you are now? Like, what was the length of your hair? What type? What How did you start your locks? Like, did you do coil? Did you do two strand twist? Did you do braid locks? And then I kind of went from there. So for me, I found this one with Cindy Ray, and she started her locks with two strand twists, if I remember correctly. Yeah, she started her lock with two strand twists, and she also started her locks, I believe, dyed. But at the time, my hair was already dyed, but I was like, we're kind of in the same. We were kind of in a similar boat, both starting off their locks. And I was like, okay, I want to do two strand twists, and I want to do. And my hair was already done at the time. I was like, perfect, this works out great. Um, so that's how I did my research, and then I just went from there. And then also, if you, like now, if you haven't started your locks, like now is the time to decide. Like, do I want to be like a do it yourself girly, or do I want to find a loctician? Can I afford a loctician? Um, do I like, I can't afford a loctician, and that's like, this is my person who I want to go to. A lot of locticians don't accept transfers, so like, am I willing to be in a committed relationship with this loctician? In this, like, is this my person? Is this like a vibe? Because sometimes, like, they're like, sometimes you meet people and your vibes don't, you guys aren't connecting, and like they're touching your hair, and like they're entering like a part of your spirit, and your hair is an extension of like almost your soul, and so whoever's putting their fingers in your head, like they're affecting your energy. So like, are you vibing with that loctician? Is that like who you're meant to, because you're basically entering into like a professional relationship, but at the end of the day, it's a relationship. Or if you are like a DIY, like you have someone to turn to. That kind of brings us back to our first point of, find a loctician, find a friend, find somebody you can go to when you're like, oh my gosh, I have a lock falling off, please help. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the seventh point, is do your research, kind of find out, what do you want your lock journey to look like? How do you want to start it? How do you want to start your locks? How many locks do you want to start with? What is your 2 years from now? What do you want your locks to look like? Because that can determine on who you look to. Because you might have a lock friend and they have locks, like you're like, I do not want, like, we want two different things here. So yeah, do your research. And then my last and final point, and this kind of goes back to the second point of don't over retwist, because oftentimes the reasons why we over retwist is because we don't like the frizzy look, or we don't like feeling a little different than we usually look. So my last point is that there is no ugly phase. I've heard that a lot. Where like, oh, you have to go through an ugly phase with your locks. I've never been a believer in that. Um, I feel like I've heard a lock influencer say it once, where there is no ugly phase. There is no. It's just your locks. It's a lock journey for a reason, and so there's different parts are gonna look different ways. And the sooner you kind of accept that, and the sooner you're like, okay, this is just a part of the journey. Like, my hair is a little frizzy right now, and it's a little out of pocket, but this is a part of it. I think that's where that kind of energy stems from, because you'll meet a lock person and you'll be like, yo, you got this like energy about you, and I think that's what that is. It's like their acceptance of like themselves, and being like, today might not be a good day with my locks, but I'm rocking with it, let's go. Like, I feel like that's what that energy exchange that they're feeling is. It's like that inner acceptance of yourself and your locks. And I might be getting a little hippy dippy, but that's just what I believe. There's no ugly phase, and the sooner you kind of accept your locks, the sooner you'll feel more accepting, almost like, of yourself. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Be in the comments, let me know if you started your lock journey, if you started it, if you're 5 years deep. I want to hear from you guys. So